The story begins with the terrifying views of Monument Valley. These sights are enough to send chills down anyone's spine. The flat and straight rock walls look beautiful from a distance, but in reality, they are extremely dangerous and deadly. We then see 5 people trying to climb these steep cliffs. Among these 5 climbers, 3 belong to the same family. The father is Royce, a very experienced and skilled mountain climber. Along with him are his daughter Annie and his son Peter. 2 other climbers are also part of the team. However, they are not as experienced as Royce and his children, and this is about to become the biggest reason behind a tragic accident. Under the burning heat of the sun and surrounded by massive heights, all 5 climbers slowly continue their ascent. The 2 climbers who are slightly ahead of Royce and his children suddenly lose their balance. Their feet slip on the rocky surface, and within seconds they begin falling from thousands of feet above the ground. The most frightening part is that all 5 climbers are connected to the same rope. As soon as those 2 climbers fall, the force of their weight pulls everyone else off the cliff as well. One by one, the remaining climbers lose their grip and are dragged away from the rock face. Now all 5 of them are hanging in the air, supported by only a single rope. That rope is attached to a small hook fixed into the upper part of the cliff. The problem is that neither the rope nor the hook was designed to hold the weight of 5 people at the same time. Strong winds keep shaking them, while the combined weight puts more and more pressure on the rope. Before the entire group can fall together, the 2 climbers who were originally at the top are now hanging at the very bottom because of the sudden movement. Then disaster strikes. The section of rope near them suddenly snaps, and both climbers plunge into the deep canyon below within moments. Now only Royce, Peter, and Annie remain hanging on the rope. But their nightmare is far from over. Even though the weight has been reduced, the rope is still slowly slipping from the hook. The hook itself is beginning to pull out of the rock. Royce quickly realizes that if the weight is not reduced within a few seconds, the hook will come loose completely, and both of his children will die along with him. Royce urgently shouts to Annie and tells her to place a climbing clamp into a crack in the rock. If she can secure it, the rope will get extra support and the pressure on the hook will decrease. Annie uses all of her strength. Her body is shaking and she desperately stretches her arm toward the crack. But no matter how hard she tries, she cannot reach the spot where the clamp needs to be placed. Royce is hanging at the very bottom, while his son Peter is directly above him. Realizing there is no other option left, Royce makes a heartbreaking decision, one that would break anyone's heart. He looks up at his son Peter. In his eyes, Peter can clearly see a father's love and his desperate wish to save his children. Royce tells him to take out the knife and cut his rope. Peter and Annie are completely shocked after hearing those words. Annie starts screaming and begs Peter not to do something so terrible. Peter's entire body is trembling. He cannot imagine cutting his own father's rope with his own hands. He knows that the moment he cuts it, his father will fall thousands of feet to his death. Finally, with tears in his eyes and a broken heart, Peter does the only thing he can. He takes the knife and cuts the rope. Royce falls into the abyss below and sacrifices his life to save his children. The story then moves forward 3 years. That horrible accident completely changed Peter's life. The guilt of his father's death stayed with him every single day. It affected him so deeply that he gave up mountain climbing forever. Now he works as a photographer for National Geographic. He wants to stay as far away from mountains as possible, but fate seems to have different plans for him. While working on a documentary project, Peter learns that a famous and highly respected expedition team is preparing to climb K2. K2 is known as the second highest mountain in the world and one of the deadliest peaks ever climbed. Peter is shocked when he discovers that his own sister Annie is part of the team. Annie has now become a world-famous mountaineer. She has built a huge reputation and is known across the globe. In many ways, she is carrying forward the dreams that their father never got the chance to complete. Peter decides to visit the base camp to meet his sister. When the 2 siblings come face to face after so many years, there is no happiness and no emotional reunion. Instead, there is only silence, tension, and old pain between them. Annie still believes that Peter is responsible for their father's death. Peter then learns more about the expedition. A team of 5 climbers, including Annie, plans to reach the summit by Tuesday. The entire mission is funded and led by a wealthy businessman named Elliot Vaughn. Elliot recently purchased an airline company. His plan is simple but ambitious. At the exact moment he stands on top of K2, the first flight of his airline will fly over the mountain. He wants the entire world to witness his success and power. On the night before the climb begins, Elliot throws a grand celebration at the base camp. Everyone is enjoying themselves and looking forward to the expedition. But then a mysterious and serious man arrives. His name is Wick. Wick is an extremely experienced climber who has already reached the summit of K2 in the past. He knows every part of the mountain and understands how quickly its weather can change. Wick walks straight up to Elliot and asks him a simple question. He asks what he will do if the weather turns bad while they are on the mountain. mountain. Elliot, filled with confidence and pride because of his wealth, answers without hesitation. He says that they have the best weather expert in the world working with them. According to all their reports, there is no sign of dangerous weather for the next 2 months. Wick warns Elliot one last time. He tells him that the weather in the mountains never stays loyal to anyone. If a storm arrives, nobody can control what happens next. But Elliot laughs off the warning and does not take it seriously. After that, Wick leaves the camp. He shaves his beard and under the cover of darkness, quietly begins his solo climb toward K2. The next morning, Elliot's team of 5 climbers also starts their journey. Full of confidence and excitement, they continue climbing higher and higher. Eventually, they reach an altitude of around 26,000 feet, where the air becomes extremely thin and breathing becomes difficult. At that moment, they receive an urgent radio message from below. The message warns them that a powerful storm is moving rapidly in their direction. Tom, the leader of the climbing team, is highly experienced. As soon as he hears the warning, he says that this is a very dangerous sign and they should immediately turn back. However, Elliot refuses to listen. He is obsessed with reaching the summit and making his airline promotion a success. He argues that they are only about 1 hour away from their next target point. He also says that the storm might change direction, just like weather reports sometimes do. Tom and Annie both understand how dangerous this decision is. They know they are risking their lives. But because of Elliot's money, influence, and constant pressure, they reluctantly continue moving forward. Back at the base camp, Peter watches everything unfold. When he sees that the team is still climbing despite the storm warning, he becomes extremely worried. The painful memory of losing his father comes rushing back. He quickly contacts Tom over the radio and desperately tells him that a massive storm is already approaching from the south. He warns that if they do not turn back immediately, none of them will survive. But once again, Elliot manages to convince Tom with his confident words and false hope. Through his binoculars, Peter helplessly watches his sister Annie walk straight toward danger. He has already lost his father. Now he cannot bear the thought of losing his sister too. Then nature finally shows its true power. A violent snowstorm suddenly strikes the mountain. Thick snow, freezing winds, and unbearable cold surround the climbers from every direction. The 5 climbers struggle to move forward through the storm. Suddenly, a huge section of snow beneath Annie's feet gives way. She loses her footing and begins falling into a deep crevice between 2 massive rocks. Since all of them are connected by the same rope, Annie's fall starts pulling the others down as well. Luckily, just as Annie is hanging slightly above the surface, her rope becomes caught on a sharp rock. For a brief moment, it seems like she might be saved, but then the rope snaps in half. Annie falls deep into the crevice below. Fortunately, she survives the fall. However, she is now trapped inside the icy chasm with no easy way out. Meanwhile, the remaining 4 climbers are scattered across the mountain by the raging storm. Then an even greater disaster appears. A massive avalanche begins rushing down from above. Like a giant wall of death, it races directly toward the team. The avalanche crashes into the team with tremendous force. 2 more members of the expedition are killed in the disaster. Now only 3 people remain alive inside the deep crevice: Annie, Elliot, and Tom. Above them, the entire opening of the crevice becomes buried under a massive layer of snow and ice. This means that all 3 of them are now trapped beneath the snow, almost like they have been buried alive. They have no idea what is happening outside. Back at the base camp, people keep trying to contact them through the radio, but no signals can get through the thick snow. Fortunately, Annie knows Morse code, and Peter also understands it very well. Using a small rock and a piece of metal, Annie begins sending Morse code signals from inside the crevice. Somehow, the equipment below manages to detect those signals. The moment Peter learns that his sister is still alive, he feels a huge sense of relief, but time is quickly running out. Experts estimate that at such an extreme altitude and in such freezing conditions, the trapped climbers cannot survive for more than 36 hours. Their oxygen supply is running low, and they have very little medicine left. The biggest problem is finding their exact location beneath the snow. Even if their position is discovered, nobody knows how to remove such a massive wall of ice and snow to reach them. The entire situation seems almost impossible. Peter decides that he will personally go up the mountain and rescue his sister, even if it costs him his own life. To make this possible, he approaches the army and requests powerful nitroglycerin explosives. These explosives are extremely dangerous. Even a small impact or direct sunlight can cause them to explode. Elliot's company then announces a reward of $5 million for anyone willing to join the rescue mission. Motivated by the reward money, a rescue team is eventually assembled. Before the mission begins, begins, Peter is advised to include Wick in the team. Wick is the same experienced climber who had warned Elliot before the expedition started. Wick has a very painful past of his own. 4 years earlier, his wife, who was a well-known mountain guide, disappeared on this very mountain during a terrible storm. Wick had desperately searched for her. He climbed higher and higher, hoping to find her. He never found his wife's body, but during that search he managed to rescue 3 other people and bring them back alive. The mission came at a heavy cost. Because of the extreme cold, several of his toes suffered severe frostbite. Even now, he often wanders through these dangerous mountains searching for any trace of his wife. Peter and his team travel by helicopter to meet Wick. At first, Wick refuses to help. He knows that climbing K2 under these conditions is almost the same as walking towards certain death. But then Peter reminds him that years ago, he climbed Everest together with Peter's father, Royce. Hearing Royce's name brings back old memories. Eventually, Wick agrees to join the mission. As soon as he takes charge of the team, he makes one thing very clear. This is not a climb to break records or chase glory. This is a rescue mission, and from this point forward, every step will be taken according to his orders. Meanwhile, inside the frozen cave beneath the snow, the condition of the 3 trapped climbers keeps getting worse with every passing minute. The cold is so extreme that their blood feels like it is freezing, and the lack of oxygen is putting enormous pressure on their bodies. Tom's lungs are struggling to function properly. The group has a very important medicine that helps them breathe in such harsh conditions, but Elliot once again shows his selfish nature. He does not want to share his supply with anyone else, even if Tom dies because of it. In fact, Elliot secretly hopes that Tom will not survive. If Tom dies, Elliot can use the remaining medicine himself and increase his own chances of staying alive longer. Annie cannot accept this. Feeling sorry for Tom, she secretly gives him one of her own injections. When Elliot discovers what she has done, he becomes furious. He starts insulting Annie and angrily complains that she is wasting valuable medicine. While this is happening inside the cave, Peter and Wick continue their dangerous rescue mission. Carrying the highly unstable nitroglycerin explosives, they carefully move through the mountain. They protect the explosives at every step because even a small mistake could be deadly. Nature continues testing them. During the climb, one of the explosive containers develops a leak. The moment the first rays of sunlight touch it, a massive explosion erupts. The blast is so powerful that the entire mountain seems to shake. 2 members of the rescue team are killed instantly. The explosion also shifts large amounts of old snow and ice. As the snow moves away, Wick suddenly notices a frozen hand sticking out from beneath the ice. He rushes over to investigate. The moment he sees the body, he is completely shocked. It is his wife, the same woman he has been searching for over the last 4 years. Her body has remained preserved in the ice all this time. With deep sadness, Wick removes his wedding ring from her finger and places it inside the locket hanging around his neck. A short time later, Peter discovers a small medical kit nearby. The contents of that box reveal a horrifying truth. 4 years earlier, when Wick's wife became trapped in the storm, Elliot had been there with her. To save himself, Elliot stole all of her dexamethasone medicine and abandoned her to die alone in the freezing mountain. The truth hits Wick like a hammer. He finally realizes that the real reason his wife died was not the storm. The real reason was Elliot. Rage begins burning inside Wick's heart. Filled with anger and a desire for revenge, he starts moving even faster toward the cave where Elliot is trapped. As night falls, Annie's condition becomes much worse. She manages to contact Peter through the radio. In a weak and exhausted voice, she tells him to turn back. She says that none of them will live long enough to see the morning sun. She begs him not to risk his life for them. Peter tries to encourage her and tells her to stay strong, but he can barely control his own tears. Later that same night, Elliot crosses every possible line of humanity. While Annie is unconscious and unable to see what is happening, Elliot slowly crawls toward Tom. Then in complete secrecy, he injects Tom with a syringe filled only with air. As soon as the air bubble enters Tom's bloodstream, he begins to suffocate. Within moments, he dies. When Annie wakes up, she finds Tom's body cold and lifeless. She also notices the empty syringe lying nearby. It does not take long for her to understand the truth. Elliot murdered Tom to save his own medicine and increase his own chances of survival. Just then, pieces of snow begin falling from the ceiling of the cave. A faint beam of light shines through from above. Peter and Wick have finally reached their location. Using extreme caution, they place their last nitroglycerin explosive above the cave. A powerful explosion follows, opening a path to the trapped climbers. Peter quickly climbs down into the cave and reaches Annie. He secures a rope around her and prepares to pull her to safety. At the same time, Wick comes face to face with Elliot. This is the moment Wick has been waiting for. He finally has the chance to take revenge for his wife's death. But despite everything, Wick remains a true mountaineer. Even after learning the terrible truth, he chooses not to leave Elliot behind. He ties a rope around Elliot as well so that he can be rescued. Suddenly, the section of the mountain beneath them begins to collapse. In an instant, the situation becomes almost identical to the tragedy that happened 3 years earlier. Peter is at the top top, desperately holding onto the rock. Hanging below him on the rope are Annie, Wick, and Elliot, one beneath the other. The mountain's surface is weak and unstable. The hook holding the rope is slowly being pulled out of the rock. Wick immediately realizes what is about to happen. The rope cannot support all their weight for much longer. If nothing changes, Peter and Annie will die too. Wick looks up at Peter. There is a strange sense of peace in his eyes. Then he reaches into his pocket and pulls out the same old knife. Peter immediately understands what he is about to do. He desperately shouts for Wick to stop, but Wick simply smiles. Without hesitation, he cuts the rope. In the next moment, both Wick and Elliot fall together into the dark abyss below and disappear forever. By making that sacrifice, Wick not only avenged the death of his wife, but he also gave Peter and Annie a second chance at life. As the first rays of sunlight appear over the mountain, Peter finally brings Annie safely back to the base camp. This time, there is no anger or resentment in Annie's eyes. Instead, she looks at her brother with love, gratitude, and respect. She embraces him and finally forgives him for the painful events of the past. Annie tells Peter that if their father were alive today, he would be incredibly proud of him and of the courage he showed during the rescue mission. In the end, Peter builds a beautiful stone memorial dedicated to all the people who risked and sacrificed their lives during this dangerous rescue operation. With that emotional moment, this incredible story comes to an end. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel to see more such videos. Thanks for watching.